Welcome to Season 10 of Purposeful Empathy, a show that is dedicated to amplifying the voices of people from across the globe who understand that the world needs more empathy and are doing something about it. I want to thank all of you for watching. Our first 100 episodes garnered over 20,000 organic views. I couldn't do it without you. Please share, please subscribe, and enjoy the show. Welcome to a new episode of Purposeful Empathy. Today I am joined by Losira Okelo, who is a certified equine specialist in mental health and learning, as well as the founder of Bocheval, an organization that offers non-riding experiences between horses and humans for personal or professional growth. Losira started riding at the age of 7 and found her way back to horses decades later. She offers therapeutic non-riding programs for individuals on the autism spectrum, as well as at-risk youth and survivors of trauma. Bocheval also offers opportunities for individuals, small groups, and companies to experience growth and prevent burnout. Welcome to the show, Losira.
Thank you, Anita.
I'm very
excited. Friends for
excited.
years. It's great to have this conversation with you. I've been looking forward to it all day.
Me too, because I recently discovered everything that is powerful related to horses. I can't even begin to share. Like, every person I talk to, I say, you must try this, because doing a session with horses is equivalent to 20 years of talk therapy. That's what I say. And it's not overselling.
It's so funny you say that, because there is a woman in the program that I do here in New York who first responder, who said exactly that. After 5 weeks of 5 hours of a program called the Equus Effect, she was like, I finally get what 20 years of therapy was trying to teach me.
Okay, so you are certified and you facilitate these wonderful opportunities for humans to grow alongside the healing powers of horses. So I have a few questions that I want to dig into from your website. Okay, so I went onto your website in preparation for this conversation, and it reads, as a prey animal, the horse's natural instinct is to react to energy and stimuli. Around humans, the horse intuitively senses what we are thinking or feeling subconsciously. So I guess the question I'll start with is, do horses have empathy?
Oh my gosh, I think horses are empathy 101. The ability to be able to share and recognize what someone else is feeling is their survival instinct. So as humans, we're predators. Horses are prey animals. They are used to reading all that internal energy for their own safety. So think of it as a horse in a field and a moose maybe walks by. Their instincts are going to know whether the moose is perhaps a danger to them or not. Do they need to run? Do they need to find safety or not? So they need to really recognize what the agenda of that being is. As predators, we tend to have one thing going on the outside and something else going on in the inside. That could be, you come into the office and you've had the worst day ever, and somebody says to you, how are you doing today? And you just have to smile and go, I'm doing great, everything's great. But there's all this heavy stuff going on the inside. And when we work with horses, they invite us to notice that in a way that is so non-judgmental. And the reason I think I say they are empathy 101 is because as humans, we have so many biases. We have so many things that stop us from being able to share and really hold someone else's feelings or safety with some sense of integrity. It's whether they have the right skin color, whether they have the right money, whether they look a certain way, there's all these things that just cloud our judgment of who we give our empathy to. And with horses, with all animals, but in particular, horses are so good for humans because they're willing to be in the process of what that partnership can do. My cats would probably just walk away, even though they have empathy in a different way. But they don't have this bias. They don't have this judgment that they can give it to you because you look a certain way. And so you're immediately stepping into a situation where, at Bocheval, we start to get you from the very beginning. I might start with, so you and I were doing a session with a horse, and it was around, you were saying, just kind of want to work on having more empathy. I might start the session with us sitting down, taking some deep breaths and just asking an expansive question, like, why do you think forgiveness is so hard? And I did this actually with a group of therapists. We were out in a paddock and we did it. And they started to share and it was, again, they had a choice to share or not, how they would answer that question, but just answer it as honestly as you would like to. And as they started to discuss that, and afterwards we took some more deep breath, the horses that were on the other end of the field walked over to them. And it was so validating for them, that the beginning of just being honest. And after that, we just continue to notice how you're feeling inside, what's showing up for you. And the more you do that, the more the horses tend to want to be closer to you. And so it's this immediate thing that your brain goes, oh, well, if I notice, then I get this beast actually wants to kind of be closer to me. And it just feels intuitively good. So I think they are empathy 101. It just doesn't look the way that it does in the human context. But I think I would even add that with humans, we have this intuitive feeling of whether somebody is being genuine in how they're offering their help for us, or whether they are indeed offering their help for us. We may override that with other things, like we may say, oh, I don't want that person to feel bad, so I'll react a certain way. But I think we can intuitively tell when somebody's saying, just listening to you and feeling everything that you're feeling, and somebody who's going, yeah, so like, how are you? And there's something in us that knows what feels right and what is genuine empathy.
I feel like we really do need to lean into places and spaces and conversations that allow us to show up in our full colors with all our complexity, all of our weaknesses, quote unquote, all of our hurts, all of our boo-boos, and just to share the space for some healing to happen.
Absolutely. It's a vital basic. I remember in graduate school learning about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and just the basic needs that we have. And now things have really evolved to really understanding the science behind what our nervous system. I'm really diving into that now with some work on trauma and the mammalian nervous system. So understanding horses and humans better, that we have so many of these stresses in life, and we go up and then we get stuck and we don't release them. We don't the ups and downs are a part of life. They're part of nature. Nature is not good, or it's not always giving us good things all the time, but we have all these things that we can cycle through. But then there's also some of the bigger stuff, the systemic stuff, that it's hard. I could be there, going for a run and releasing some tension, but at the end of the day, if I walk into a room and somebody looks at me, and this did actually happen a couple of weeks ago, like I'm the filthiest thing that she's ever seen, then I'm dealing with something that is really hurtful. And how do you cycle through that sadness if it just keeps showing up? So finding healthy ways and healthy spaces that we can feel safe enough to unlearn, I think, is a big word that I'm loving right now. And I don't know if I have it on our website, but I better make sure that I do. But I think spaces where we can learn, unlearn, feel restored, rejuvenated, and feel healthy enough to deal with all these things while we still attack the bigger things that are affecting all of us, feeling like there's something clamping down on us.
So I'm just curious, because you're doing all this work on the mammalian system and somatic work and trauma work. What's coming up for me is a recent experience that I had. So I've had 2 personal coaching sessions with a horse. A first one in the fall and one fairly recently, where I said to the coach, I think I am addicted to work. I work all the time. I look forward to Sunday night because the next day is Monday and I can go back to work. And the work that I do is important to me. I mean, it's all related to sharing, the gospel about purposeful empathy. So, and I've been working towards this for 10 years, right? The book launch and going on a book tour. So, it's ramping up. I get it, but I have to really I said to her, I have to really see this as a marathon as opposed to a sprint. And I also want to do it with joy. I also want to do it with joy. And so we did a session together, and I'll tell you the experience that I had where I just before leaving, my daughter Annika is very into the new Pink song. I never want to not dance again.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay. So it's a great upbeat tempo song. And we had a dance out in our living room just before I headed up north to this session. And so she wanted me to feel the energy of joy to attract the horses to me to do some experiments on her in her farm. And the thing that came up, that bubbled up, was me dancing, and it worked. Like the horses followed me. But then there was one that didn't. And so she's like, what about that one? I went over to that horse, and like I was on a mission to get that horse to follow me. And that horse wanted nothing to do with me. Like I was like, now we're going to have fun.
Yeah. Right? You're putting so much pressure, and pressure is just like, no thanks.
Right. So then there was a bit, so we did the fun thing, but then she also said, I need to have, like, it has to be part of my routine and my every day, all day, to have it, to be conscious of moments where I can also take a break, breathe, go get some water, like take care of myself. Absolutely. If I want to run the marathon. So she said, I want you to go onto my property and do what you need to do to rest. Okay. Do what feels right to you. So I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to do. And there's still snow up here in Montreal when I did this in February. I got onto my back and I did a snow angel. And then I just looked up at the sky and just started to breathe. Like I got in touch with my breath and I just started to breathe. And out of nowhere, this horse, beautiful mare, came and walked right above me. The horse's face was hanging down, like this 2,000-pound creature was really like literally standing above me. Yeah. And for security, she had the horse move out of the way because there was another horse behind and she didn't want the two to feel kind of whatever. But then the horse stood on guard. Like this was a protector horse. And she had me unpack what I thought the metaphor was. And I was, crying as this was happening because I was having this revelation where it's like, oh, if I take care of myself and I take some breaks, I'll be protected. The world will not fall apart. And so I was like, oh, this is good news. And then it's a matter of putting it to practice.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, you can have these incredible experiences and they're visceral, they're somatic. I can tear up. I was tearing up as I was talking about it.
I love it.
It's a matter of, making the change. So what do you say about that?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be gentle with yourself. And I say, come back. First of all, I absolutely love that story, and I can never get enough of them because they're so genuine. And what I love about it is that you intuitively felt what the message was that the horse was giving you. And it's so clear. Like, that's why I love it. It's so clear. You can, when people start saying what they feel, you can tell that it's coming. They felt something from that interaction. I might see it and see the horse walking over to you, but I'm not perhaps seeing what he or she is saying to you, what you're feeling. Right. So you got a very wonderful, clear message. And I think now it's just to remember that in the moments when you get stuck where you are not giving yourself those things. So perhaps you need to schedule in those moments where you play and have joy for the 10 minutes. And in that moment, what's the name of that mare?
Lily.
Think of Lily and remember what Lily told you. And I find that when I have moments where I'm stuck and a horse has taught me something, I do remember, maybe not all the time, but it's happening increasingly to go back to what I learned, because it was so intuitive. It's normal. We get busy, we get this, we kind of push it aside, but just keep remembering Lily. Maybe if you have to have a picture of her on your bathroom window every day so that, you're remembering, oh, that's, you go to bed saying, oh, did I get my 10 minutes or 15 minutes of joy? Something that can help you to prompt you to remember that, because you understood it very clearly and it was obviously very impactful. So you just need some reminders.
If you're enjoying this conversation, I bet you'll love reading my book, Purposeful Empathy, Tapping Our Hidden Superpower for Personal, Organizational, and Social Change. We are living in the era of a massive empathy deficit, but humans are wired to care, and we can become more empathic with practice. And the more you do, the better you'll feel. Please visit your favorite online retailer and order your copy today. Yes. Okay. So I want to ask something else that I read on your website that caught my attention. Doing non-riding activities with horses helps people become aware of patterns, behaviors, and emotions in their life. You call this the improved I. So I think we've already kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I wonder if you could provide a few more examples from...
Yeah. So I recently did a session with a friend of mine, and we had done all the hands-on, etc. And I had asked her to walk with the horse from one end of the arena to the other, and gave her some cues on how to. So she's walking, and I said, I'd like you to keep along the arena. There's sort of a groove where most of the horses walk, and I said, I'd like you to stay on that line and go to the other end of the arena. So she starts walking, and the horse is like turning into her, and now she's like halfway across the arena in the middle. And I said, she gets to the other end and she's like diagonal. She's not, and she's like, she turns to me and goes, "Oh my God, Losira, I can't believe this." She is demonstrating to me everything that is showing up that I've been upset with my life about, because I don't have boundaries. I don't set boundaries at work. I don't set boundaries. And so people step into that space. And it's like she's asking me to create a boundary. And this is a horse who normally, when in other activities, she, you want to walk straight, she walks straight, and not, So, and I adore her. Her name is Kenya. She's at the farm in Centre Vitaly where Bocheval is. And she just, in that moment, something lit up for her that, yes, it is very clear that is the thing that she needs to work on. And then we did it again, and she set that boundary, and it was hard for her, and she was even feeling within herself how hard it was for her. Like, I'm being mean, I'm being this, and it's like, no, horses respect boundaries. That's in a herd. That is how they, there might be a minor, like, okay, that's my hay, you move away. And if you don't get it, then there'll be a little like leg raise. And if you really don't get it, they might go further than that. But they set boundaries all the time, and they're healthier because of it. And so she got what she really needed in that lesson. In another case, we had a woman who runs a team building company, and I'd invited her so that she could see what we do, so it can be part of what she presents to team building companies who come through her. And she was with a horse called Classy, who I love them all at Centre Vitaly, but Classy. And she was doing some work where she was asking the horse to turn on its back legs, but the horse was just kind of fidgeting around, and so checked in with her, just notice what it is that you're feeling in this moment. And also, if you'd like to tell Classy anything that you're feeling without saying anything out loud, feel free to do that. So she took a few minutes standing there, and then the horse suddenly settled and turned in towards her, and this woman just started crying. And she said, imagine if we could all just communicate with each other so that clearly and that sincerely. I mean, it was something she felt within her. It was something I didn't even know what Classy was saying at that moment. I'm just watching her start to open up. And it was a very clear message for her, a very heartwarming message for her. So
I think humans do have the capacity to let down their guard and show up with vulnerability, but I think so many of the systems that we live in right now make that nearly impossible to do, or very difficult to do.
And I think there's, vulnerability doesn't necessarily mean you have to tell everybody everything that's going on in your life, just be like the context, right? There's certain way we say things at work and certain way we say things with our family. And in some ways, sometimes there's this oversharing that doesn't really seem like it's sincere. But I think integrity, the ability to be able to have less BS happening that is accepted, I think would be very helpful. Because I think it's harmful to our own. We know there's something not right with it, but yet we're having to still put up with it.
Mm.
That does something to how we feel.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we do need spaces where we can be present and safe and sincere. And I love the fact that you don't even sometimes have to verbally express something. I took my brother up to the farm in New York where I work sometimes, and he walked into the stall. And this horse is really huge. She's very, very tall. And he walks in and he's like, that neck. And the horse just swivels around towards me, and it's like she wants to jump into my pocket, like help. And so I say to him, he's a 6'3", big guy. I said to him, just notice how you're feeling, whatever it is that you're feeling. Meanwhile, knowing it's my little brother, and I'm kind of like, ha ha ha, that he's feeling scared. I said, just notice how you're feeling. But he took a deep breath, and he kind of just, if like a minute or two later, the horse just walks to the middle and then walks over to him. This was 10 minutes. He turns around to me and he goes, now I understand what you do for your job. I get it. And I get why it's so impactful. The ability for some people, not to have to express themselves vocally. Sometimes we don't want to, sometimes it's not appropriate, but to hold the sincerity of noticing within ourselves is a gift to ourselves. And it's a gift when it gets rewarded by a beautiful large animal that then says, okay, I'll come closer to you. It's very rewarding.
So what are your values at Bocheval?
Well, empathy is a big one. Empathy is a huge aspect. Safety, I don't mean, obviously we teach everything from the safest perspective first in terms of the physical horsemanship stuff, but it's the safety of people's being when they come onto the property. This is a space where you can be you. This is a space where you will be treated with kindness and with integrity and with politeness, and that's really important. I think there are many horse barns and horse world places where people have felt, I did a talk a week ago, and I said at the beginning, when was the last time that you saw a horse? What did you think? And people gave their answers, and then I said, well, what do you think about people who are, horsey people or the horse world? But hold that inside, and then I'm going to do my presentation. And you could just see the looks. There was like, people were like, there was one horse man, and he was just kind of like, yeah, I dig horsey people because he grew up on a ranch. But everybody else had a little bit of a, like, that's not for me, or a perception. And I truly believe that for anybody who wants to experience what horses can do for humans, this is, they are for everybody. And so this is a space, and any space where we will work will share the same values as us, so that people, whoever your color, your skin color, your gender, your sexual orientation, it doesn't matter. Just come here and experience what these animals can do for the human being. And that's something that we need to shift in the horse world big time, and do some of our own work to, I have biases too. You have to first be aware of what you're thinking, and dig and say, why am I thinking? And keep digging and keep digging and keep digging. Does it even make sense? And where did I learn this from? And you have to be willing to do it. But in general, some of the big things around race or just prejudice, or whether you have enough money or don't have enough money, has clouded whether people feel open to the experience, and that's sad. And I'm really hoping to change that.
Well, we started our conversation talking about how you think horses can provide the 101 empathy. And I love to close my conversations with all my guests to ask a question. I mean, you shared one already, but I wonder if maybe you could think of another. When you were on the receiving end of empathy at some point in your life, and what that meant for you.
Well, I have two ones that pertain to Bocheval with horses. So I'll say the two, and if you want to cut one of them, you can. So the first one is with Bo, who is the horse that I named Bocheval after. And this was, I met him maybe like 4 years ago or something. And I would go into his store and groom him. And I remember one particular day I went in and I was really in a low place. I was really sad. I felt like I was really struggling to belong outside of being in my life at, coming to the barn. And yeah, just very, very down. And I remember brushing over his back and then deciding to put the brush down. And I just put my hands on the middle of his back. And he said to me, Losira, be strong. I'm here for you. And then he turned and he looked at me. And it was the most reassuring, it was the most reassuring thing that I had felt. And so I have to be able to tell the story without crying every time. So when I thought about what I wanted to name this company over, it really was for Bo, because he was just strength and reassurance and kindness and empathy. And, if I need to go a little bit slowly here to get down the hill because you're walking with me and you're not sure, I'll do that. If this kid is having a screaming fit over there because they don't want to get on, they're on the mounting block having a fit, I'll just wait and hold the space until you're ready. And so to witness a being who gave that, and the most wonderful thing was seeing how he gave it to all these other people, like this veteran who severe PTSD, talked about how he'd worked through it with Bo. Paramedic who'd recently gone through chemotherapy. It was Bo who took her through that. He didn't just give it to me, he gave it to, and I thought, my God, that is a value that I so aspire to, and that is my grounding force. Like, I closed the door, I asked Bo, I talk to him all the time. He's no longer alive, but his energy is very much with me all the time, and it helps ground everything that I do. And so it was it's just a wonderful way for me to come back to that all the time with Bocheval.
Before you go to your second one, I do want to hear the second one, and nothing's going to get cut. I know that for those people who are listening or watching and who haven't had a session with a horse and done equine coaching or therapy, it must sound a little bit like, okay, she had the need and he said to me, everything's going to be okay. Right? So you can be skeptical that the horse is going to do this message. But having experienced it myself, and you having experienced it firsthand, but then also facilitating it for so many others, I think I just want to put a little emphasis on take a leap of faith if you're doubtful listening.
Yeah. Oh my God, I would totally, if somebody told me this, I mean, my own father was a bit like, yeah. And then he came and he did a session for half an hour and he was like, oh my God, that's all about self-awareness and how you feel on the inside. Like, boom, Hondo had given it to him. So there's so much of it. I completely, and I'm like a really skeptical person, so I completely understand why somebody would feel skeptical. And I think sometimes people have said, horses are magical, and I don't. I think they're wonderful animals, but again, getting back to their makeup, their nature. as an animal, they are drawn towards things that have no agenda, that are safer. So, there's a reason why they come towards you, because there's something there that's just saying, look, I'm pretty safe. Well, they're drawn towards that. And in the sense of, that horse said, I felt the horse was giving me a message. Again, just it's about your intuition will tell you what you need to, but you have to experience it, and you have to allow yourself to tap into it. It's there all the time. Yours might say something different to what something says to me, but you'll feel it, and you'll know whether you're just imagining it or it's for real. You really do.
What's your second story?
So the second story is a horse by the name of Grace. So there's a good friend of mine called Carmen, Carmen with an E. She's at Horse Sense North. She does equine facilitated learning. She has a herd of five or six horses, and it's a wonderful place that you can, camp on. Like, if ever you and your family want to go and spend a few days, camping on this beautiful property, and also doing stuff with horses. So last summer she had a session on becoming fully aligned as an entrepreneur, and I was like, this is perfect, because I wasn't sure what I would get out of it, but I knew that I would get something, even if it's just to learn the way somebody else does equine facilitated learning. So we camped out on her property, and in the afternoon session, there was a round pen with her beautiful former RCMP horse, Grace, and we had to go into the only direction she gave us to go into the round pen and hang out, notice Grace, see what happens. I went last because I was I started to think, oh my God, I'm the equine person here. What if something happens and I look like I don't know what I'm doing? Blah blah blah. Like stories. So I went last, and even when I was like right before I was supposed to go, I made an excuse to go to the bathroom. And I went out to the bathroom, and the horse, Grace, walked over and watched me walk away as if like, come on, lady, what are you doing? Get back here. So I get back, I go into the round pen, and I'm standing there, and she's standing there with her back to me, and nothing's happening. And I'm in my head going, I don't know how to do this. And the horse is just standing there. And so Carmen says, why don't you go back to some of the stuff that you felt this morning? And so I'm like, I put my hands on my knees, I give out this huge breath, and I'm like, I know that movement is my thing. Like, me standing there, just staring at this horse, like, movement for me, whether it's doing sports or this or that, is what is good for me. So I'm like, I'm just going to move. So I turn my back and I start walking away, and I'm just in my space, enjoying my movement. And then I feel this, and I turn, and she's right there. And so that's it. Movement is my thing. Whenever I'm stuck in this business, whenever I'm like in a position, my response to anything that's traumatic tends to be freeze, or anything that's hard, freeze. And she was saying to me, you need to put into motion. Whenever you're stuck, like you're standing right there, just move, do something, move. So we leave, and I'm still feeling a little bit like, I can't believe that was the message that came through so loud and clear. I'm standing with my back to the round pen, talking to Carmen, and Grace comes right over my neck, right over here. And I feel lovely, and I just turn and I talk to her, and I kiss her, and I rub my face against her. And Carmen is just like, she's like, she doesn't like anybody touching her face. And that's when I knew, like, I looked at her and I felt her say to me, look, trust what I'm telling you. Just trust what I'm telling you. The next day we were leaving, and I went to say goodbye to her, and I went to and she was just like, get away from me. And it was almost like she was saying, lady, I gave you what I needed to give you yesterday. Like, now you're being a bit desperate. Like, just take it and go. So whenever I've had moments where I'm struggling with a decision, or feeling a bit stuck, I get up and I move. And I remember Grace, get up and move. Sometimes it's a physical movement. Sometimes it's just go to the next idea. Sometimes it's, go clean something, just move that energy that's stuck. And I remember it quite often. So I definitely feel Grace and Bo have given me moments of empathy that are just invaluable to me going forward.
Thank you for sharing those stories. Everybody can experience them by contacting you. I'll make sure to have the information on Bocheval, and also you do some work here on the other south side of the border. So we'll include all of that. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to doing a session with you, Losira. I think it's clear that this was your purpose, and you're on your path, and that's exciting to see. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. And I do want to say we've been friends for 20 something years or something like that. I'm so proud of you with this book and where you have gone with empathy. I mean, remember a couple of years ago you were talking about empathy like 20 years ago, back, if not more than that. And we had this great conversation in my apartment one day, and then in Montreal, and then a few days later you sent me the book, Mary Gordon's
Roots of Empathy.
Roots of Empathy, and I had it on my bookshelf, and so it's really lovely, and your purpose, you found it, and you stuck with it, and it's just wonderful to see. So I wish you all the best on your book tour, and I'm cheering along.
Thank you everyone for watching and listening. We will see you next week at Purposeful Empathy.
Thank you for watching another episode of Purposeful Empathy. Remember, this show is dedicated to amplifying the voices of people from across the globe who understand that the world needs more empathy and are doing something about it. If you want to get involved, share this video, subscribe to this channel. See you next week. Thank you so much.